Okay, part 5. Next on my list, entrance theme music. TNA has made a few strides in this area over the last 2.5 years or so, but this continues to be a gripe that I have, because you can have the greatest wrestler in the world, or the most charismatic talent ever, but if this guy, or girl for that matter, is coming out to the ring to completely generic and unrecognizable music, it's going to really hinder that person's ability to get over. You're not going to pop for entrance music if you can't figure out whose music it is until you see the person on the ramp. And I know I give WWE a ton of crap a lot of the time, but this is one thing that they've always been great about, and TNA can take a lesson from. A character's entrance music needs to be recognizable and identifiable and unique to each individual character. When a WWE audience hears "You Think You Know Me" over the loudspeaker, they know immediately that Edge is coming out. When they hear the sound of the glass breaking, they know immediately that Stone Cold Steve Austin is in the building. TNA has very few original entrance themes like this, and it's an ongoing problem that's been plaguing them for almost 6 years. I mean, even a lot of their best entrance themes, like the ones for Kurt Angle and Christian, they're just remixed versions of pre-existing material. And yes, that is a big improvement over the more generic stuff that a lot of the other talents like Kaz and Velvet Sky are stuck with. It's still not where it needs to be, because it's not 100% identifiable with that character. When you hear Tracy's music, you don't think Tracy Brooks, you think Ragdoll by Aerosmith. When you hear Christian's music, you don't think Christian Cage, you think My Last Breath by Evanescence. Not that I'm complaining about that one, because that's actually one of my favorite songs, but the fact remains that if you can't relate the entrance music to the character, then the music needs to be changed, because it's not effective. And probably the best two examples of great original entrance music TNA has are the themes for LAX and James Storm. Because when you hear those gunshots going off, and Homicide starts rapping about living and dying in the Latino nation, right there you know that here comes LAX. When you hear that bluesy tune singing "Sorry About Your Damn Luck," you know Tennessee Cowboy's on his way to the ring. Your TNA needs to go more in this direction. Hire some professional songwriters or composers to write new music for the wrestlers. And yeah, it'll cost money. But what are you running all these house shows for now? Getting all these new revenue streams coming in if you're not going to feed it back into the machine. Next, and this should be a no-brainer by now, I think TNA should put more of an emphasis on the Knockouts division. Because if you've been watching my videos, or if you watch the ratings closely like I do, then you know that the segments featuring the Knockouts division have been drawing the highest ratings on Impact just about every week for a while now. And it would be, I think it would be impossible for TNA to not recognize by now that they have something really, really special with these women. Because whatever that intangible X factor is, be it the great work of Gail, Kong, and ODB, or just a general feeling of TNA's respect for women in wrestling as opposed to the WWE's obvious and complete lack of respect for the women in their company, or some other reason entirely. The fact remains that the women of the Knockouts division are making more of a difference in the ratings than Kurt Angle or Booker T or Samoa Joe or any of those guys, to the point where TNA is now talking about giving the women their own spin-off show. Hey, but hey, don't take my word for it. Let's hear from good old JR on the subject of women in professional wrestling. Tell it to the TNA fans, Jim Ross. The Attitude Era was a long time ago, pal. Get with the program. I mean seriously, who gave him that little factoid? Vince McMahon? Jerry Lawler? Can you WWE fans out there seriously think that that company knows what their audience wants when you hear them saying stupid shit like that that's so obviously not true at all? Look at that retarded Divas water balloon fight on SmackDown last Friday. Lots of sexy women in bikinis dumping water all over each other, and that audience barely made a peep through that whole thing. Compare that to the crowd in the Impact Zone when ODB and Awesome Kong were having their title match on the live Impact show, which, by the way, drew the highest ratings for that show, second only to the main event match, which featured the return of Sting. Now compare those two segments and you'll see just how much the wrestling audience values sex appeal over athleticism in this day and age. And yet, despite the Knockouts division's proven drawing power by now, the TNA writers continue to only utilize it in like one segment per show. Here's what I suggest. Instead of featuring the women in only one segment per episode of Impact, try testing the waters a little bit. Try featuring them in 2 segments per show, just for a few weeks, just to see if they can still draw ratings on the same level that they are now when they have a larger presence on the show. Another good idea would be to start developing storylines for them apart from the Knockouts title picture, to start incorporating the rest of the women in the division. And I'm happy to see that this appears to be happening now. Roxy Laveau now has a burgeoning feud with Velvet and Angelina, who finally have been given actual characters. Now they're not just the generic blonde baby faces whose only real purpose it is to separate Gail Kim from Awesome Kong. And now they're the stuck-up, beautiful people who, you know, pick on the girls who aren't, and they seem to be targeting the more quote-unquote plain-looking Roxy. Now, I think Roxy's way prettier than Velvet Love Entertainment, but that's just me. You know, in terms of giving the blondes actual gimmicks and developing characters for them to play, this is a good place to start.